You ever had your whole life flipped upside down in the space of 5 minutes? Because that's exactly what happened to me in the parking lot of a Target on a sticky July afternoon when a cop named Karen, slammed me against my own car hood and screamed, "You're going down for possession." Possession of what? Baby powder. Baby powder. I swear. I thought I was being pranked. Cameras hidden somewhere. Ashton Kutcher gonna pop out yelling, "Punked." But nope. This wasn't TV. This was real life. My chest was pressed to burning metal. My cheek scraped against the paint of my Civic, and all I could think was, how the hell did I end up here? The day had started normal enough. I had stopped at Target to grab diapers and formula for my sister's baby because she was sick at home, barely able to stand. I had that giant container of Johnson's baby powder in my bag along with wipes, some cereal, and a 6-pack of LaCroix. I walked out whistling, heat shimmering off the asphalt, cart rattling behind me, and then sirens. Out of nowhere, blue and red lights cut across the parking lot like a blade. A patrol car screeched diagonally in front of me, nearly clipping an old man crossing with a cane. And out she came, blonde ponytail tight as a whip, aviator sunglasses reflecting the world like twin mirrors, voice sharp enough to slice glass. "Drop the bag." I froze. "Excuse me." "Don't you play dumb with me," she snapped, hand already on her holster. "We got a report of narcotics. Step away from the vehicle." I laughed nervously. Mistake number 1. Narcotics. "Lady, this is baby powder." That was all she needed. She lunged forward, wrenched the bag out of my hand, ripped the container open, and white dust puffed into the air like chalk at a gym. Caught in the sunlight, floating, and she shouted like she'd just cracked the cartel. "Cocaine. I got him. Back up en route." My jaw dropped. "Are you serious right now?" "Says Johnson's on the damn bottle." She shoved me face first onto the hood, cold cuffs biting into my wrists. My heart was racing so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. People were gathering, phones out, recording, whispering. What's happening? Did he have drugs? And I wanted to scream no. This baby powder. For God's sake. But every time I opened my mouth, Karen barked, "Shut up or I'll add resisting arrest." You ever feel the ground open under your feet? That slow, hot flush that spreads up your neck when you realize your reputation, your job, your life could be gone in an instant. That's where I was, suffocating on my own panic, while this woman strutted like she'd just solved the opioid crisis. The backup came. Another officer, an older guy, looked at the scene with this puzzled frown. He picked up the bottle, squinted. Karen, that's literally baby powder." But Karen wasn't having it. Classic cover-up. Traffickers disguise contraband in household containers all the time.
"Room in sight,"
muttered, "Jesus Christ," under his breath, but didn't push it. They stuffed me in the back of the cruiser. Windows up. The air smelled like stale sweat and vinyl. I stared at the barred partition, rage bubbling in my chest. How is this happening? They booked me. Yes. I spent the night in a holding cell. Concrete bench. Flickering light. The stench of piss from the corner drain. Some drunk guy kept mumbling next to me about aliens stealing his shoes. I sat there clutching my knees, trying not to break down. My sister's baby was at home, waiting for formula. I hadn't even called her. And Karen. She paraded around the station, bragging. I heard her through the bars. "Got a big bus today." Guy thought he was slick. Not on my watch. The arrogance in her tone made me want to smash my head against the wall. Morning came. Bail posted. My sister scraped together money she didn't have. When I walked out, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled, she hugged me and whispered, "We'll fight this. We'll fight it." Court day came fast. My lawyer, public defender, barely older than me, with messy hair and coffee stains on his tie, was flipping through the file, shaking his head. This is insane. She logged Johnson's baby powder into evidence as cocaine. You understand how ridiculous this looks? Ridiculous. I hissed. It ruined my life already. The courtroom smelled of old wood and dust. Karen strutted in. Uniform crisp. Chin high like she was the star of some reality cop show. She testified with fire in her voice, swearing she knew the substance was narcotics, that she had years of training, that her instincts never failed. She even sneered at me while pointing across the room. This man is a dealer. I could feel it. I wanted to leap up, scream, but my lawyer placed a hand on my arm. Trust me, he whispered. Then came the twist. The judge, graying hair, sharp eyes that cut through bullshit, leaned over the evidence bag. He held it up for the whole courtroom to see. The plastic clear as day. Label intact. Johnson's baby powder. He unscrewed the lid, dipped a finger, rubbed it, even smelled it. Then he coughed, shook his head and asked one question that silenced the entire room. Officer Karen, are you seriously telling this court you cannot distinguish between baby powder and cocaine? The silence cracked into laughter. Not polite chuckles. Full-on belly laughs from the gallery. Even the bailiff bit his lip. Karen flushed crimson. With all due respect, Your Honor, traffickers disguise. Disguise. With the original packaging. The judge slammed the gavel. Bang. Enough. This is the most ludicrous misuse of authority I've witnessed in years. And just like that, tables turned. He dismissed all charges against me on the spot. Case thrown out with prejudice. He declared, eyes burning holes into Karen. Furthermore, I am ordering an immediate review of your conduct and your badge. This court will not tolerate officers abusing their authority on baseless assumptions. Her face, oh God, her face. The color drained. Her jaw stiff. Hands trembling just slightly. She opened her mouth to protest. But the judge cut her off. Bailiff, escort her out. The gallery erupted. Half cheering. Half gasping. Phones whipped out. I sat there. Shock flooding me. Then laughter bubbled up my throat until I couldn't hold it back. After everything she put me through, karma had swung back hard. But here's the kicker. A week later, news headlines exploded. Local officer suspended after mistaking baby powder for cocaine. Her photo everywhere. Memes flying. Side-by-sides of Johnson's bottles with captions like, Breaking Bad. Toddler edition. People roasted her non-stop. She was done. Badge gone. Career over. As for me, it wasn't easy crawling back from the embarrassment. The whispers. The sleepless nights. But every time I hear that sharp bang of the gavel in my head, I remember truth wins. And sometimes, karma doesn't just knock. It dropkicks the door off its hinges. So yeah, Karen thought she had me. But in the end, the judge tossed her badge like trash and justice tasted sweeter than anything I've ever known. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more wild real-life stories like this one. $3. Just $3 lousy. That's all it took for Karen to turn an ordinary neighborhood dispute into something out of a nightmare. Nobody expected her to actually wave a knife, let alone point it at a pregnant woman's stomach. But my God, she did. It started on a hot Saturday afternoon. The kind where the pavement practically shimmers and even the cicadas sound irritated. The neighborhood was restless. Kids on bikes darting across the cul-de-sac. Sprinklers hissing on lawns. Dogs barking behind fences. Then the scream broke through it all. Give me my money, you thief. Karen's voice shrieked so loud it rattled windows. She wasn't just mad. She was unhinged. People poked their heads out of their doors. Curtains shifted. Someone's lawnmower cut off mid-growl. That's when we saw it. Karen standing in the middle of the street. Her arm jerking wildly. clutching a kitchen knife like she was ready to carve into something. Opposite her, Elena, the pregnant woman who had just moved into the neighborhood 2 months earlier, stood frozen. One hand clutched her belly, the other raised instinctively like a shield. "Are you insane? It's $3. Elena's voice cracked, panicked but firm. Her dark hair clung to her face, sweat dripping down her temples. You could see her legs trembling. But Karen didn't care. She stomped closer, her sandals smacking the pavement with every step. $3 or 3 excuses. I don't care. You think you can scam me?" Her face twisted, spittle flying from her lips. Some neighbors gasped. Others muttered in disbelief. I swear. One guy even whispered, "Oh my God, she's actually gonna do it." And honestly, for a second, I thought she might. The knife caught the sunlight, glinting like some cheap horror movie prop. Except this wasn't a movie. This was our street, our neighbor, our reality. Elena stumbled back, her voice breaking. "Please, my baby." Karen lunged forward, a jerky half-step that made everyone's heart stop. Gasps erupted. Somebody yelled, "Call the cops." A phone clattered to the ground as someone fumbled in panic. I felt my own stomach twist. $3. Over $3 freaking. Was this how far Karen had fallen? Or had she always been this cruel, this explosive, and we'd all just ignored the warning signs because it was easier to laugh at her homeowners association rants than face the truth? Elena's husband, Miguel, came running out of their house barefoot, his face pale, his hands shaking. "Back off, lady." His voice cracked with fury and fear. He shoved himself between Karen and Elena, chest heaving. But Karen, she was grinning. "What's the matter, big man? Can't your wife pay her debts?" Her knuckles whitened around the knife handle. The street felt like it was holding its breath. A dog barked wildly behind a fence, as if sensing the madness boiling over. Miguel's voice roared, "Drop it, now." And just then, the wail of sirens pierced through the tension. Karen's head snapped toward the sound, eyes wide. But instead of backing down, she raised the knife higher, her arm trembling with adrenaline. "They'll believe me. They always do," she screeched, voice cracking into hysteria. "What?" My jaw nearly hit the ground. Did she really think the cops would side with her after this? The sheer delusion was staggering. The patrol cars screeched into the cul-de-sac, tires kicking up dust, doors flung open, officers shouting commands. "Drop the weapon, now." But Karen didn't. Oh no. Instead, she jabbed forward again, straight toward Elena's stomach. Elena screamed. Miguel shoved her sideways and the knife tip slashed through the air just inches from her. Time slowed. Her scream, Miguel's grunt, the metallic clatter as the knife hit the ground after an officer's tackle brought Karen down hard. It was chaos. Officers swarmed her, pinning her wrists, shouting over her banshee wails. Karen kicked, screeched, cursed at everyone within range. "She stole from me. She stole from me. You're all blind." Neighbors stood rooted in shock, mouths open, hands pressed to faces. Some were recording, phones trembling in their hands. One older woman whispered, "Dear Lord, over $3." Elena collapsed onto the curb, sobbing into her hands, her husband cradling her protectively. The sound of her muffled cries cut deeper than Karen's screams. And yet, unbelievably, Karen still tried to twist the story as officers dragged her up. "She attacked me. She's lying. She owes me money." Her shrieks bounced off the houses. Desperate. Deranged. But here's the twist no one expected. When the officers patted her down, they pulled a crumpled bill from her pocket. A single $5 note. Creased, sweat-stained and shoved deep. Miguel's face turned red with rage. She had it the whole time. His voice cracked. Neighbors gasped again. One cop shook his head in disgust. Ma'am, you were ready to stab a pregnant woman, and you had more than enough money in your pocket. Karen froze, eyes darting, lips trembling, and for the first time, the mask cracked. She stammered. I forgot it was there. Forgot. The neighborhood erupted in furious mutters. Someone shouted, "Lock her up." Another neighbor cried, "That woman's dangerous." The irony, the karma, the bitter aftertaste of it all. It was almost too much. Karen, the self-appointed queen of our homeowners association, the woman who fined people for dandelions in their yard, who screamed about community standards, had just tried to stab a pregnant neighbor over $3 she already had. And it wasn't just the cops who caught her. No, half the neighborhood had video evidence. Every phone recording, every shaky-voiced witness. The officers shoved her into the squad car as she howled. "You'll regret this. I'm the victim." The door slammed shut, cutting off her screech like a lid on a boiling pot. The street was quiet again, except for Elena's soft sobs and the low murmur of shocked neighbors. Some hugged her. Others cursed Karen under their breath. I swear, the cicadas even went silent, as if the whole world paused to take in what had just unfolded. And the bitter truth sank in. We'd all seen Karen's madness growing for years, brushed it off as Karen being Karen. But today it almost cost 2 lives. The irony cut sharper than her knife ever could. I couldn't believe my eyes when she walked up to me, smirking like she owned the entire cul-de-sac. "Oh, here comes the drama queen." Karen sneered, her voice dripping with mockery, loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. I froze, gripping my cane a little tighter, my chest tightening like a drum being struck. My invisible illness is not something you can see, but apparently, that didn't matter to her. Did she even have a heart? She laughed again, high-pitched and cruel. "What's the matter today? Can't keep up with the homeowners association rules because your little sickness got in the way." I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to yell back. Not yet. But inside, a storm was raging. I could feel it coiling in my stomach like a live wire. My neighbor's dog barked at her, as if sensing the venom she carried. But she didn't even flinch. Of course not. Karen never flinched. I tried to step aside, hoping she'd get bored and leave. Silly me. Karen thrived on attention, especially when it came to humiliating someone else. She pivoted, spreading her arms like she was conducting an orchestra of mockery. "Come on, everyone," she called, and several neighbors leaned over their fences, curious. "Look at her, pretending to be sick again. Isn't it exhausting, sweetie?" I let out a shaky breath. My hands trembled. My knees threatened to buckle. "Karen, please," I whispered, almost begging. But of course, she didn't stop. She never stops. She lived for these moments, for the control, for the sound of her own laughter ricocheting in the street. And that's when it happened. The thing that changed everything. A sharp vibration ran through the air, like the screech of tires on asphalt. Our neighbor's front gate, the one Karen always bragged about, her little symbol of authority, shuddered and groaned. Did she notice it? No. She was too busy smirking, too busy acting like a villain in her own cartoonish play. I watched, holding my breath. As her heel caught the edge of the gate, she stumbled forward, arms flailing, her face turning a mix of horror and disbelief. "What the?" She gasped an "oh." How sweet that sound was, clipped and panicked. And then, slam. The gate swung, narrowly missing her, and she landed on the grass with a thud. Neighbors gasped. I could hear their murmurs ripple down the street. Did she just fall? I tried not to smile. Really, I did. But justice has a way of painting itself vividly in this tableau. Karen sprawled, her ego bruised before her body even got a chance. Was mesmerizing. I couldn't help the small laugh that escaped my lips. Soft but triumphant. Karen scrambled upright, red-faced and furious. Her voice was sharp, almost cracking. You! How dare you! This is... Her words sputtered into nothingness. Because suddenly, the universe, or karma, call it what you want, decided it wasn't done yet. Earlier that morning, unbeknownst to her, I'd installed a small, almost invisible recording device on the Homeowners Association sign-in board. I knew her tricks. She thrived on slander, on lying to cover her insecurities. And oh, what did we catch? Every cruel whisper, every mocking comment, every invisible illness joke she made in the Homeowners Association emails and meetings. It was all there, crystal clear. In her own words, I handed the recorder to our neighbor, who had just leaned over the fence. Maybe you should hear this, I said, calm now, almost eerie in my composure. The neighbor pressed play. Karen's voice, unfiltered and arrogant, filled the quiet street. Every mocking, demeaning word she ever said about me echoed back at her, amplified by the horror on her face. Her eyes went wide. What is that? She shrieked. Give that back. But it was too late. The neighbor's laughter started. Small at first and then louder. Oh yes, Karen, the queen of mockery, was finally hearing the sound of her own cruelty reflected back at her. I took a deep breath, letting the wind wash over me. Funny, isn't it? I said softly, almost to myself. The world has a way of showing people their reflection, whether they like it or not. Karen's face went pale. This was the part she didn't prepare for. Witnesses, evidence, public humiliation. She tried to argue, tried to claw back her dignity, but every sentence came out wrong. The words sounded empty, hollow, desperate. She sputtered, stammered, flailed, and I stood there, calm, watching the storm I hadn't even had to create, just allowed to unfold. By the time she ran off to call the Homeowners Association president, red-faced and fuming, the damage was done. And it didn't stop there. The recording made its way to her workplace, one of the top real estate firms in the city. Imagine, Karen, professional, polished, running meetings with clients, now exposed as the neighborhood bully, the person who laughed at others' pain. Her boss listened in silence, then looked up with that slow, surgical calm that only people in power can wield. Karen, he said finally, voice clipped. We'll discuss this tomorrow. In the meantime, leave your office keys on my desk. And just like that, gone. Her dignity, her reputation, her paycheck, all evaporated in a single day. And the street, our street, the whispers, the nods, the smiles, they followed her like shadows. Karen, who mocked my invisible illness, who thought she could dominate, humiliate and control everyone, reduced to a cautionary tale. I sat back in my chair that evening, Kane by my side, feeling the tension finally ease out of my shoulders. My illness hadn't changed. No, it hadn't. But my power had shifted. I had learned, painfully, that control is often in the small, quiet acts, the strategic patience that turns venom into justice. Neighbors came over, timid at first, then emboldened by the shift. They asked questions, concerned, curious, respectful this time. Are you okay? Do you need help? Their tone was different. They saw me now, not as weak, not as someone to mock, but as someone who had faced down a storm and stood tall. And Karen, she lurked, first, peeking through windows, trying to gauge the damage, trying to calculate a comeback that would never come. She tried to send emails, passive-aggressive notes, even a few small gifts. Poor, desperate attempts to regain footing. But the street had remembered her true colors. Her credibility was gone. Neighbors no longer smiled at her. They looked past her, focused on the ones who showed real kindness. Then came the final twist. A sweet little subplot that felt almost cinematic. Remember that front gate? The one she stumbled on. Turned out to be faulty. A structural hazard. I had mentioned it months ago to the homeowners association, and guess what? They finally repaired it, after Karen's public spectacle. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Karma had a cruel, precise sense of humor. Weeks later, I received a handwritten note. I almost laughed at the pretentiousness of it. The way she tried to salvage her pride in curling. Perfect script. I hope you can forgive me. It read. But forgiveness? No, this wasn't about forgiveness. It was about acknowledgement, accountability, and letting the universe deliver its own verdict. I looked out my window at the quiet street. The neighbors tending to their gardens. Dogs barking. Kids laughing. Life moved forward. And Karen, well, she had her own lessons to learn. In her own painfully public way. Sometimes, I still see her across the street. Her face tight with that bitter tension of someone who lost everything they tried to steal. And I smile. Not out of cruelty, but out of relief. Out of recognition that justice, when it comes at its own pace, is far sweeter than revenge. Isn't that ironic? That the storm she caused became the wind that carried her own downfall. And in that moment, I let out a long sigh, a sound of release, of triumph, of finally standing tall. Goodbye, Karen. I whisper. I hope you learn. Because this story, our story, my story, isn't just about humiliation or loss. It's about patience, courage, and letting the truth surface in the brightest light. And yes, sometimes, the universe has an impeccable sense of timing. Thank you for following this saga, for feeling the tension, the rage, the triumph. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more unbelievable yet real-life homeowners association drama. It all started with the sound of tires crunching where no tires should be. Right on the edge of my garden, me damn yard, a silver Lexus with HOA tags on the dash was nestled half on my lawn, half on the flower bed I just replanted. And the worst part? The woman stepping out like she owned the earth was Karen. She didn't even glance at the sign. Federal property, no entry without clearance. It was posted in bold red letters, mounted on steel. Not decorative, not up for interpretation. But that didn't stop Karen from slamming her door shut and adjusting her pearl necklace like she was about to host a garden party at Buckingham Palace. "Excuse me," I said, stepping off my porch with my coffee still steaming in hand. "That's not a public lot. You're trespassing." Karen didn't even blink. Just turned her head with a fake little smile, voice dripping sugar and venom. "Oh, sweetie, I'll just be a minute. The HOA meetings down the street and parking is such a mess. You should really advocate for more visitor spots." I blinked. Once, twice. Was this real life? "Ma'am, that's a federal storage site," I said slowly, trying to keep the heat out of my voice. "You're not just parked illegally. You're violating classified zoning regulations. This land is under national evidence jurisdiction." Karen laughed. "You're bluffing," she said with a flick of her wrist. "This is a neighborhood, not the Pentagon." God, I almost pitied her. The thing is, Karen and I had history. She'd been gunning for me since I moved in 3 years ago. Always some note about grass height, or unauthorized lighting, or flag etiquette. She once reported me for having a faded welcome mat. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that my house had been retrofitted by the Department of Justice after I retired from forensics. Evidence from high-level fraud and racketeering cases was stored beneath my floors, behind reinforced steel walls. Chain of custody protocols. Surveillance. Alarms. So no, Karen. This wasn't just another HOA complaint waiting to happen. This was federal ground. I sighed. Last warning. Move your car. Or the response won't come from me. She scoffed, popped open her little leather purse, and waved her phone like a weapon. You know what? I'm calling the board. You people with your fake signs and overgrown bushes think you're above the rules. This is HOA property. A strange calm settled over me. The kind that comes before a storm when you know nature's about to clap back in a way no human arrogance can resist. I walked back up my porch, finished my coffee, and unlocked the steel side gate. Motion detectors picked her up immediately. A soft ping echoed from inside the walls. Karen was still blabbing on the phone, wandering toward the side of the house with her designer wedges sinking into the grass. You're gonna regret this, she shouted. My husband's on the zoning board, and I'll have this whole structure reviewed. Beep. Click. The front security system engaged. The lights above the porch turned amber, a clear signal to federal partners that someone had triggered the perimeter. I didn't have to do a thing. A soft black SUV rolled up within 5 minutes silent, sleek, unmarked except for the DOJ plates. Out stepped a man in plain clothes with aviator glasses and a steel clipboard. Sir, he said, nodding at me. We got the ping. Unauthorized vehicle? I pointed. Karen had just walked back to her car, still mid-rant on the phone. The moment she saw the SUV, she stopped mid-sentence. Wait, why are they here? The agent approached her calmly. Ma'am, this is a restricted property under federal protection. Your vehicle is illegally parked in a protected evidence zone. Karen blinked. Excuse me, this is just a house. He tilted his clipboard. Ma'am, this site is an approved chain of custody facility for the DOJ. You're interfering with a classified storage perimeter. Please hand me your ID. She stammered. I'm not showing you anything. I don't even know who you are. DOJ, ma'am. As of now, this is a pending federal interference case. The color drained from her face like milk in water. You can't be serious. I was just here for 5 minutes. He didn't budge. Ma'am, we're going to have to tow your vehicle and initiate a preliminary report. Do you want to voluntarily comply, or shall I proceed with obstruction of a federal investigation? She shrieked. Actually shrieked. What investigation? And that's when I said it. Calmly, softly. The one involving your husband's forged permit applications. Tied to HOA construction contracts. Silence. You could hear her swallow. Because what Karen didn't know, what she never thought to consider, was that the same house she'd been targeting for years had the original documents she and her husband had tried to destroy. Paper trails, signatures, false invoices, forged approvals. The kind of stuff you don't walk away from with just a fine. She looked at me like I just gutted her with a word. You, she started, shaking. I stepped forward, just enough for her to hear my voice under her wheezy panic. You parked on your own lawsuit, Karen. The SUV agent gave a small smirk. Sir, would you like to press charges for federal trespassing? I paused, took in Karen's trembling hands. Her phone had dropped onto the grass. Screen still lit with the HOA board's group chat. No, I said. Let the DOJ handle it. She just violated the grounds storing her husband's fraud documents. Her knees nearly gave out. Another black car pulled up minutes later. 2 more agents. Karen was guided gently though firmly into the back seat, now sobbing into her designer scarf. The Lexus, towed with a clamp so aggressive it squealed across the pavement like a dying animal. Neighbors peeked out from curtains. The HOA president even wandered down the sidewalk, mouth agape. I thought she was going to a meeting, he muttered. I glanced at him. She was. Now she's meeting the U.S. Attorney's office. And then God help May laughed. Just a little. It wasn't even out of cruelty. It was relief. Years of her little tyrannies, her nonsense fines, her fake emergencies all undone by her own arrogance. And a no parking sign she refused to read. Karen's arrest wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the fallout. Within 48 hours, subpoenas went flying like confetti. Turns out her husbando, so respected HOA treasurer, had been laundering money through phony landscaping contracts and inflated invoices. Over $370,000 in fraud tied directly to their signatures. Karen had been the notary on several of them. Forged, no less. She even stamped approvals for projects that never existed. It all unraveled like a cheap cardigan. One neighbor came forward, then another and another. Apparently, Karen had bullied half the block into silence for years, slapping bogus citations and threatening lawsuits for minor things like mailbox paint colors or garden gnomes. Gnomes. The HOA board tried to distance themselves fast. But guess what? I had receipts. Emails, complaints, copies of forged architectural approvals. Everything Karen had accidentally shredded in the past had quietly been sent to the DOJ during my work-from-home years. Stored, cataloged, sealed in chain-of-custody boxes. When Karen's trial began, she tried to play the victim. Tears, blame-shifting, even claimed she didn't know the Lexus was hers that day. But security footage showed her cackling as she parked. The jury didn't take long. Guilty, on multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and federal trespassing. The last time I saw her, she was in County Orange, avoiding eye contact as the judge read the verdict. Her husband sat 2 seats down, white-knuckled and pale, knowing full well his pension was gone, his assets seized, and his golf buddies had vanished. And the house? My house? It's now a full-time evidence site for white-collar crime. Ironically, the entire HOA block is under zoning review for complicity in racketeering. Half the board resigned. The other half are lawyering up. Every time I walk past the cracked spot where her Lexus once sat, I smile. Because in the end, Karen didn't just park illegally. She parked herself straight into a lawsuit. Want more savage HOA justice and real-world karma? Subscribe to the channel now before your Karen tries something stupid.